Almirola admittedly got Hill a little bit loose going into the corner. Hill, to his credit, made a tremendous save and then threw it all away. He says he was just trying to gather the car back up. A lot of other people, I think, saw it differently. Here is what our own Joshua Birch and our friend Matthew Owens had to say when they reacted to it live on Josh's YouTube channel on Saturday night. Take a listen to what they had to say.
Oh, what a save!
Oh, my goodness.
No! Austin Hill! That is despicable! He just right rear hooked Aric Almirola head on into the wall. Austin Hill, well,
that'll be a suspension, that will.
It absolutely should be.
That was ridiculous. He saved it and then he hooks him. At such a fast part of the circuit, Austin Hill, get out. That is ridiculous.
And here's a tweet from a couple of months back after the Martinsville race. This is from Dale Earnhardt Jr. Quote tweeting NASCAR Chasm to hear Hill was the one who spoke up in the Xfinity All Drivers meeting to suggest he could be the one to mentor the kids was the best laugh I had all week. All right, Dale Jr. pulling no punches there. That was months ago, and that should give you an idea. Of course, when it comes to Austin Hill, this is not an isolated incident. He had the altercation with Myatt Schneider on pit road at Martinsville. Has had multiple instances where people have called for him to be suspended before. I think Brock Beard was even saying that after a race last year, and you can go all the way back to the Truck Series, getting into it with Johnny Sauter. In light of that, Brandon, I think a lot of people are asking, of course, there's an obvious answer to the question, should Austin Hill be suspended? It's not that, it's how many races should he be suspended for? What's your take on what NASCAR should do here? Should they stick to the precedent that a right rear hook is one race, or do you think that this hit was so massive at such high speed at that part of a 2.5-mile track, given a driver with a repeated history of controversial moves on and off the track, should they maybe put the hammer down and suspend him for 2 or 3 races, if not more?
Well, this would be a good moment to maybe put the foot down a little harder, maybe with some lead behind your stomp, and give him 2 races suspension. And that would have to set a new precedent moving forward where, like, look, we know this driver has the history of causing problems like this. But this is like in a level beyond where some of those other incidents were. This, like you said, this is at a large 2.5-mile circuit. And I mean, you saw the biggest culprit there is the white gloves. As far as intention goes, this is not the time where you want to have the pristine white gloves on the wheel, because we could see quite clearly there from the CW camera that after he did save the car very, very skillfully, I might add, that hard left into the 19 was, if you ask me, clear as day. Seeing that quite a few times now, and this would be an opportune time for NASCAR to set a standard and do this for more than one race. But it would not surprise me in the slightest if it was just for one, and they just keep with the status quo. And he's no place there to teach the youth. That is pretty funny, and the Jurassic Park reference is always welcomed.
All right, I am trying to pull up that tweet that you were referencing, Brandon, that will show what you're talking about, the white gloves. Austin Hill came right on the radio and said that he was trying to gather up, that he had no intention of right rear hooking him. I will also note that NASCAR held him 5 laps for aggressive driving, which I think is about the harshest penalty they can give without straight up parking him for the day. And quite honestly, he probably should have been parked for the day. There were only 8 laps left in the race at the time that penalty came down. So he really, honestly, probably would not have made much of a difference in the results. I don't even know off the top of my head where he ended up. There you go, 34th, right in front of Aric Almirola, whose day was ended in that moment. So it wouldn't have made a difference there. He still would have finished 34th either way. Let's see, we have that loaded. Here we go. Yes. So you can clearly see from inside Hill's cockpit here. This is from Casey Kerwin on X/Twitter. If you're going to do this, I would recommend wearing black gloves instead of white, but that's just me. Of course, I'd recommend not doing this at all. But You could certainly, I think, argue that Almirola got into him a little bit, got him loose entering the corner. I think if you're going to pay a driver back, I would, of course, be the mindset. I appreciate clean driving. I would want to talk to the guy after the race, especially, and I wouldn't want to risk damaging either car any further after an incredible save like that. And I think that's probably the most tragic part of all of this. It was an unbelievable save, and seconds later, he just threw it all away. But try to get him loose going into the corner at the end of the next straightaway. I think that's how you maybe show your displeasure if you're going to do it at all. But to straight up right rear hook somebody and then to try to feign ignorance and say, oh, I was just trying to gather it up. I had no control at that point, when we all clearly saw you were out of control. You regained control. Everybody reacted, oh, what a save. And then you go and right rear hook the guy at however fast they're going.
And wasn't it like 10 laps to go at this point?
Yeah.
Like, it's not even the final corner. It's not even, all to the wall and going to the line. You still had plenty left to battle Almirola for the win.
Let's catch up on the chat here. Denver, one of our regulars, big SVG fan, I know. I believe he's from Australia, New Zealand, and that's what he's referencing here. When foreign countries, fans from those countries, even they know that Austin Hill is the grub behind the wheel. Now his reputation is down to an all-time low. I think, again, you don't have to have been following this sport for very long to have witnessed instances where Austin Hill has been involved in issues like this. I mean, I forgot. I keep thinking of more off the top of my head. He had that deal with his teammate at the time, Sheldon Creed, and Richard Childress seemed to side, I guess, with Hill in that moment. He certainly sided with Hill on Saturday. He called Sheldon Creed the stupidest driver that's ever driven for him, if you remember that incident from a couple of years back. And then for Richard Childress as well to come out and say, oh, they did nothing to Austin Cindric when they wrecked his grandson Ty, right rear hooking him, going much slower on a straightaway at Coda. I'm not defending Austin Cindric there. I'm just saying I think there were a lot of people, I think our own Tanner Smith was saying on Grid Live Wrap-Up that he would have given Cindric a one-race suspension for that because the precedent's been set there. He's going to say, oh, they didn't do anything to Cindric there, which isn't even true. They docked him, I think, 50 points for that, but it just shows that he's not looking at this through an objective lens. I get that you have to defend your driver to an extent, but I mean, it's not the first time that he's made comments that have ruffled some feathers either there. Right. Our own Joe Samaniego, good to see you, Joe. And a good point as well with the additional penalty of losing playoff points for a suspension. Does that complicate it? I think he should be suspended and lose all the playoff points. And that is true. That's a new element here now in NASCAR. If you are suspended, you would lose all your playoff points. He wouldn't lose playoff eligibility, but he would start the playoffs with 2,000 points even, and that would certainly put a damper on his championship hopes. Brandon, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Does that complicate what you would do here, or do you still think it's pretty cut and dry?
That would complicate it a little bit. I mean, it's taking away earned points there from a driver, no matter what they've done. But also, I think it would be appropriate because, I mean, it would be very, one, unappealing, and two, just really problematic if our series champion was someone you could go back on the tape and find that they did that throughout the year. As good as he is on drafting tracks, that's not a good resume to have for your series champion, which he very well could end up being this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just adding it up here off the top of my head. I believe he's on 20 or 21 playoff points with his 3 wins and all his stage victories. So, and when you think about, I mean, that's more than half a race. Pays 40 to win a race. So that would be no small margin that he'd be losing there. I think your 2 championship favorites are the 2 junior motorsports drivers that were finding it out for the win on Saturday. I think, but again, this is the format that we have now. This is only going to make up half the championship 4. You get to Phoenix and then nail the setup or hit all your marks. I mean, Austin Hill would certainly be somebody who could win the championship this year, but first you have to get to that championship 4, and you take those playoff points away, take a race away from him, give him one less opportunity to go out and earn more playoff points. That certainly puts him at a disadvantage there. I know that a precedent has been set, and I think, or it had been set at least. I don't know, with Cindric not getting the penalty this year, with Austin Dillon. I mean, he did lose his playoff eligibility, but I honestly I would have rather him kept his playoff eligibility, but been suspended. Or honestly, I would have rather seen him suspended without a waiver. But Chase Elliott got suspended for what he did to Denny Hamlin at Charlotte, and they gave him a waiver for that. So I suppose the precedent should have said Dillon gets the one race suspension, but he'll get to whatever. That's the price you pay. Winning is everything. We'll let you keep the win, and we'll give you the waiver because we hand waivers out like candy. But they kind of went with the opposite of that. They still let the win stand, and they didn't suspend him, but they said it's not going to count towards the playoffs. So I thought we had a crystal clear cut precedent following a couple of things that happened in 22 and 23. I'm less sure of that now. So I don't know if that means that there's no guarantee he's going to be suspended. But I honestly, Brandon, I would like to see it go in the other direction. I think he should be sat out for multiple races. I think past history should be taken into account here. And quite honestly, I don't want this to be seen as like a personal attack on the guy. I've never met Austin Hill. Just from stories that I have heard from people that have worked with him, people in the garage area a lot more often than me. I'm only in the garage area once, maybe twice a year, so I can't speak to it from that perspective. But I would not have a problem with him being sit out for a year. And when I say a year, I don't mean suspended, sat out for the rest of 2025. I would say, what is today? July 28th. It means July 26th would have been Saturday, the Xfinity race. Until July 27th, 2026, Austin Hill is not allowed to compete in any NASCAR sanctioned races. I'm that fed up. I'm that tired of him getting involved in these altercations and really showing no remorse. I mean, again, I don't know if people remember the Notes app apology. I mean, it was the weakest Notes app apology I've ever seen after he punched one of his fellow drivers on pit road. I'm tired of the behavior. I'm tired of seeing these things happen. And I'm tired of him, again, just feigning ignorance and acting like we all didn't see. I mean, Josh puts it up here in the comments section. Pretty hard to hide the hand movement with white gloves. And then to be given a 5-lap penalty and call it effing BS and F NASCAR, going off on the radio about, I mean, I imagine that NASCAR is not going to take too kindly to that.
Right.
I mean, if anything, I think that only increases the chances that something that a hammer is going to be dropped here. So again, are they going to sit him out for a year? I severely doubt it. I imagine it's going to be a few races at most, but I hope to God that Austin Hill takes whatever time off he has, and I hope he has at least one race off. If they say that this we can't find any clear-cut definitive proof that this was intentional, then I'm going to be very disappointed in NASCAR for not taking a stand there. But I hope that he takes his time off, takes a long look in the mirror, and wonders why he has the reputation that he has, to the point where somebody like Dale Earnhardt Jr., an owner in this series, would tweet something like that and get the kind of response that he got from his fans on social media, who all seem to be in agreement here, and then to go out a few months after that and just kind of be proven right with what he did on Saturday. I'm thankful Aric Almirola is okay. He brought it up in his post-race interview as well. Obviously he had the injury at Kansas all those years ago with his back after a hard head-on injury. And I also want to say, I haven't seen this brought up, but I'm very disappointed in IMS, in Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The safer barrier was invented at your facility. You guys were the first to introduce that technology. How is it that in 2025, we don't have safer barriers, at the very least, all around the short chutes between turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4? How is it that you see Almirola going to the wall and there's a point where the safer barrier comes out here? I just can't believe that technology has been around for over 2 decades at this point. And to some tracks' credit, Bristol has it. I know. I think Daytona has implemented it. They have it all around. Obviously, when the technology was new and when it was not in the best interest economically speaking, you prioritize the turns, you prioritize the inside walls. I don't know how we're at a point now, especially at IMS, at a track like that, where we can't have
one of the dangerous facilities in the world
all the way around. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to pull this image back up here. If you guys can see right there. There is no safer barrier in the short chute where those two are. And that means there's no safer barrier where Aric Almirola goes head on into the wall at those speeds. Now he's got the Hans device. He's got everything else, all the other safety. I mean, obviously the cars are safer than they've ever been, but I imagine it would be hurting a lot less if he had the safer barrier as well there. So that's something else that I want to put out there. If anybody in IMS is listening or taking notes after this weekend, I really think there's no excuse for that at this point.
Yeah, that's really surprising, and that you bring up that is where they first had it implemented. So that's one of the major places they first had it implemented. So that's very surprising. But yeah, you got to have that there in the short chutes. That's where all the momentum is headed, is into those corners. And of course, they're not really counting on someone to right rear hook somebody either. But you got to be prepared for everything. And like you said, it should be feasible at least by now, where it's at all points of the racetrack, wherever you're at. There's little things like inside walls where you don't think they're ever going to hit, like in the infield.
Yep.
At certain places. Like we had the issue with Brian Blaney at Nashville in 2023 or something. But besides things like that, it should be everywhere you normally are.
Yeah. I mean, you go ask
as a standard.
Yeah, go ask Jeff Gordon how many times he hit an inside wall and would get out of the car, and the very first thing he'd say to the safety guys helping him out is, "Why is there no safer barrier down?" I mean, and again, of course, Jeff has been retired for almost a decade now. So to a lot of tracks' credit, they have put the safer barriers there in most places where it belongs. But again, it's just I find it disappointingly ironic that the place where that technology started has not fully taken advantage of that. In an area of a track where we saw it come into play this weekend, and again, and even if it's not intentional, a driver, has a suspension brake, or we saw that with Hinchcliffe, obviously in IndyCar, they blow a right front in the corner. I mean, you can have a hard hit, certainly in the short chute between those turns there, and I think that needs to be at the top of their priority list. All the improvements that Roger Penske has made to the facility, full credit to him there, but the fact that hasn't been one of them is pretty disappointing as well. Denver here in the chat saying if NASCAR have an ads, they would suspend Austin for at least 4 races to send the strongest possible message to ARCA, trucks, Xfinity Cup, whoever, that this kind of BS is not tolerated in any form of racing. Yeah, I mean, again, this is what we talked about after the Richmond race last year, but this is the top level of stock car racing in the world, and the fact that you can do what Austin Dillon did last year and apparently get away with it if you're fine with having your name in the record books but not getting the playoff benefits that come with it is pretty unbelievable. So I mean, again, I think again, it part of when you have a driver with the reputation that Austin Hill has, because I'm going to be honest, I just came from Sonoma. I saw a couple Austin Dillon shirts. I get it. The guy's won a handful of races. He drives the 3 car. It's a legacy there with Earnhardt. I don't know that I have seen anybody, whether it's at the track or on social media, that's really like, yeah, Austin Hill's my guy. I'm rooting for him. I'm going to ride and die with him all the way. No matter what we have to go through. I don't know.
Yeah. Where are they?
Maybe some people like that exist. I don't know. And I think that's a shame, because I think he is a talented driver, certainly on the super speedways. I've even said on this show before, I think, based on what he's done in Xfinity, you could make an argument maybe he should be in the 3 car instead of Austin Dillon. I mean, he has had some good runs
some
in this
days,
series.
Yeah.
But he cannot seem to get out of his own way when it comes to incidents like this, both on and off the track, getting involved in constant controversies here. And again, I'm tired of it. I wish that NASCAR would put their foot down and say, we're serious about this. We're going to try to put a stop to this and make sure that you don't do something like this again. And nobody does something like this again, because if you drop the hammer here and you give him 3 races instead of just 1, I think that certainly sends a message to everybody, especially in the lower level, some of the younger drivers that maybe haven't been around as long, haven't seen as much in their time. You can't do that.
That type of move, Ben, it tarnishes at all levels. It tarnishes Austin Hill's reputation, Richard Childress, and the entire sport. It just can't be stood for. Although I do think I'm pretty sure I saw some 21 shirts on the golf cart at Darlington. think that's where I maybe saw some. And it was kind of an anomaly to me. Like, oh wow, look, an Austin Hill fan in the wild. Like, this is cool. But yeah, so I think they are out there.
Yeah, maybe Atlanta, because his sponsor Bennett also sponsors the race there, and obviously he's won that race multiple times.
They're all up there in the Bennett hospitality suite.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, he's a good driver. He's got, again, it's just I think that's the most frustrating part about this. I'm willing to bet 90% of that Xfinity field in that situation probably would have lost and spun out.
Yeah,
it was an incredible save, and just to forget the danger aspect of it for just a second. He threw his own car away. Like he threw Almirola's car. Like, it just you put together. You had a potential race winning or race ending rather incident unfolding. Had a remarkable instinct to do whatever you needed to do to save that car at the speed you were going, and then decided to throw it all away because you couldn't control your emotions.
I mean, that's a lesson for all of us, is it not? Just, you made a recovery, and then one little split second of retaliation will cost you.
That's a great point.
Look,
Brandon.
You took yourself out and him.
That is a great point. That is a good message for all of us.
And I'm sure he regretted it afterwards, because now he can't win.
I don't know about
that. Now he's probably suspended for multiple races.
He might regret it now. I don't know if he regretted it in the moment, because he was trying to pass it off as
maybe after the adrenaline wore off. Yeah. I'm hopeful that he's regretful, but his past has shown us that maybe not so much. Maybe not more than an Apple Notes.
Yeah, I'm hopeful too. And I guess I can check. I mean, I've got Twitter pulled up here. I don't know if we have received any sort of a
Gluck poll. Is Austin Hill sorry? Yes, no.
Yes. Austin Hill has not tweeted since the morning or the afternoon before the Sonoma race. So we have not heard from him in a couple of weeks. I wouldn't count on
yikes, Scooby-Doo,
hearing from him anytime soon, if that's the indication. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope that he at least sends out. I hope it's better than it was after Martinsville. That is a very low bar to clear, admittedly, but I think he has to say something, and I think NASCAR has to suspend him. I think that NASCAR needed to suspend him for one of the prior incidents, to be fair. Yeah, but
I don't think we're going to hear anything out of him until the call is put out.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe wait until the call's, but yeah, that's a good point too. And we'll see. I feel like it's usually Tuesday or Wednesday that we hear about those, and if it's Wednesday afternoon, I'm sure Josh and Matt will have more